Hi, can everyone hear me okay? Hopefully. Thank you, Erin, for that gracious welcome. It's good gosh, everybody, which is good day. My name is Grace Salcido-Siquieros. I am Tohono O'odham from the Tohono O'odham Nation here out in Sells, Arizona, way in the southwest corner of Arizona. So just a little background information for myself. I'm actually a GED graduate when I was 16, and I went straight into the workforce once I turned 18. And about 10 years later, or actually 12 years later, I decided to go back to school, especially because the Tohono O'odham Community College was offering Native American students free tuition. And that was always a big barrier for me because I was a sole provider for my family. And so being able to go back to school without having to worry about that expense is really what brought me back. And I was able to get my associate's degree in social work. And I'm currently working towards starting my BSW program soon. And it was going to be Northern Arizona University, but it is going to be Arizona State University instead. But I now work at the Tohono O'odham Community College, which for me has been truly a great honor to go from the student side of things and now be on the professional academic side of things, being able to help other students along their education journey and be able to be relatable because I went through it. So it was really, joyful for me to be able to work with these students because there were a lot of times when I was starting out where I was a little bit scared and worried, and especially because I had been out of school for so long and because I quote unquote only had a GED, there's a slight stigmatism on that, but it is something, and it's I worked hard for that, and I'm glad I was able to come back and not only be able to come back, but be supported into moving into this next step in my education journey, which is transferring to a university. And so that's where I want to begin, tips on transferring from a 2-year to a 4-year college. So hopefully the students here, you guys may be just starting out or wherever you are in your educational journey, hopefully you can find a little piece of information here. I do have my information on here. So if you feel like reaching out to me, please do. Would like to help you in any way that I can. So to start things off, one of the biggest things that I would like to encourage students to do when starting that transfer process is to meet with your academic advisor. Whether you're meeting with your academic advisor or your faculty advisor, that's going to be a pretty important step. This is where you're going to be able to kind of fine tune things as to where you are in your path progression, what required classes you'll be needing, and map out that road path for you at your 2-year college. Meeting with an academic advisor at least once a semester is going to be really helpful to keep you on track because life happens, things happen. And so meeting with an advisor is going to be able to kind of keep you on track and also be able to give you that map and guide to move forward. And you'll start being able to do things a little bit more independently and a little more proactively, and you'll gain that confidence that your academic advisor will be able to then work out with you. A lot of times students come into a 2-year college not necessarily having a specific program that they are going to pursue and or are unsure of what they would like to pursue when they get to university level. So being able to talk with an academic advisor will kind of answer some of those questions for you, as well as maybe explore some of your interests, some of the ideas you might have as far as a career and how to get there. For instance, maybe somebody is contemplating, I really want to work with people and I'm not sure where I want to work with them. Okay, do you want to work with people, adults? Do you want to work with elders? Do you want to work with children? These are kind of questions that they will, your advisor will, prompt to you so that way you can kind of bring down that idea and find a place what sounds familiar to you or that you resonate with. And going from there, you then have a starting point and start mapping out that program for your 2-year. When you get closer to the end of that journey, you're about to earn your associate's degree in whatever program it is. It's never too early to start looking at universities. So you could honestly start your 2-year education journey at your community college, your tribal community college, and the next day go and start looking at universities that are either within your state where you are, or maybe you want to look at other TCUs out there that offer bachelor's programs that you would like to then continue at, because how great is it to be able to graduate from a TCU community college and then go on to another TCU and gain your bachelor's there. There are even a few TCUs that have a master's programs as well. So, explore those. Once you have your associate's program down, that this is what you're working on, then it'd be nice to start exploring those bachelor programs and what you'll work towards. Now, this comes with being able to do some research, whether you're doing that with an academic advisor or yourself, being able to do some research on those universities. You want to be able to look at, what kind of programs they offer. Do they align with your current program of study? You'll also want to look at things like articulation agreements, what credits are going to transfer in and be accepted. Are they going to transfer in as a whole, like your whole associates, which could be anywhere from 60 to 64 credits, or are they going to be broken down further than that? So when I'm speaking about TOCC specifically, here at TOCC, we have articulation agreements specifically with our Arizona State University. So NAU, ASU, U of A, where our courses, our programs are designed to have a smooth transfer into those universities. But that's not to say that a student couldn't transfer outside of that and go somewhere else. Like maybe they want to go to another TCU, like Northwest Indian College out in Washington. Maybe you want to pursue a bachelor's program there. So that is still possible and can be done, but you'll want to work closely with your academic advisor and the advising team there at the institution to make sure that you're meeting those requirements to transfer into their program a little bit more smoothly. It could be something as simple as one extra class or maybe one different in classes that you take. Instead of taking this class, you'll take this class instead because that meets their program requirements. So just little things like that, those little questions and things to ask. But another really important thing to consider when you're doing that research is what kind of program you're going into. Are you going into a program where you're going to be on campus in person? Or are you looking for institutions that are offering these programs online for you to be able to attend? Because there are a difference. So for instance, NAU has a couple of fully online bachelor's programs that you can do, but for their institution, they do have other programs that are offered partially online, and then there's an aspect part of that program that you'll have to go in or work with your advisors to complete the rest of that program. So, there's not, you want to make sure that it's something that this is what I want to do, this is what I can do, especially if it means relocating. Because if you're going to be relocating, you want to be able to also then extend your research to what resources are around you, housing, what housing is going to look like for you, if you're going to need employment opportunities, connecting with maybe some of the resources there on campus for student jobs and or the local jobs in the area. You'll want to make sure you're kind of looking at all of those things. And if you're steering more towards something that's online, you want to make sure that that program is going to be completely doable online for you. So that way you're not getting close to the end and then get hit with like, oh, here's where you have to come in now. This course you're going to have to come in to complete, whether it's like maybe it's an externship or something like that. You want to make sure that you're looking at those types of things. um, and a lot of universities also will have a specific page on their website that's dedicated to transfer students. So going to, if you have a university in mind, going to that university's website and checking out transfer students will then show you, because the application process as a transfer student is going to be different than a brand new student that's maybe coming either fresh out of high school or a brand new student who's coming back to school that maybe didn't have any credits that are with them coming in. So as a transfer student, it is a different application process, and you're going to want to check that out. Look at what that means. Are there GPA requirements? What kind of transfer programs are you possibly going to be looking at? And furthermore, the cost. A lot of times, we need to be really aware of what we're getting ourselves into, because those costs, they're not really laid out for us to always understand completely. Sometimes it takes a little bit more digging and figuring out what that actually means, because it's not just tuition, it's books, it's going to be, maybe if you're planning to be on campus, it's going to be dorm expenses, things like that, transportation, all of those kinds of things come into play. And so being able to figure out what that cost is going to be, you'll be able to then look at, okay, this is what the total cost is going to be for me to go to this school under this program. And maybe then you'll be able to start looking at scholarships, starting with the American Indian College Fund, a great resource for scholarships, looking at your tribe and what scholarships they might have, and then branching out from there, will help you cover those costs. There are also some colleges out there that are now starting to offer gap scholarships for Native American students. So you want to make sure when you're looking at that, what does that mean? What does a gap scholarship means? That basically means that if you were to apply for financial aid and receive Pell grants, things like that, and other scholarships, that university that has that available will then take in those Pell Grants, take in those outside scholarships, and they'll apply it to your account. And whatever's left over, they'll cover that piece. But that doesn't mean it's free, like that you're going to get that grant money towards you and those scholarships towards you. No, it's still used towards funding your education at their institution, but whatever is not covered by those will then be covered under their gap scholarship. And so it's really important to pay attention to those kinds of things as well, because that goes into play for your financial aid status as well. For instance, NAU, Northern Arizona University, they announced their free tuition for Native American students. But the little caveat for that is that that applies to their in-person on-campus students. So the students that are going there solely for online experience, they are exempt from receiving that free tuition. So it's just those little things that you want to really look at and pay attention to when you're considering where you would like to transfer. But once all that's said and done, you found your university, you have looked over their information, you're ready to start making those moves forward, you want to start with that transfer application with them. Once you start that transfer application with them, you'll then, wherever you are in your education journey at your 2-year, you'll turn over those official transcripts to that institution, and maybe even outline a path progression of where you'll be when your expected graduate date is supposed to be, and go from there. They'll then You'll get your acceptance letter, things like that. They'll connect you with an academic advisor on their end to kind of start working things out. Now, again, this could be maybe a year out from your graduation date. This could be 2 semester or a semester out. So if you're graduating next spring semester and you're ready to start that process this semester, if you jump on it now, you'll have a little bit more time to complete all of the paperwork, the necessary paperwork, and turning things into them and those processes, and be ready to meet with that advisor come next spring semester, just in time to register for classes for them for maybe your fall semester. Maybe you're going to start in the fall, and that'll be really, a really good map to plan out, to give yourself that time, because not that it can't be done later or at, a closer period. It's just going to be harder because not all universities have an open enrollment. Not all universities have year-round applications. Sometimes you have to do them by a certain time frame. So those are the things you want to look for and look at when you're considering those universities, what their timelines look like, what deadlines you need to meet, especially if you're going to be using any scholarships or any kind of offerings that they have, like gap scholarships. You want to make sure you're within those deadlines to receive that. You definitely don't want to be stuck with that bill at the end. Another thing to consider when you're looking at your credits to transfer is making sure that you're looking at your credits, and you go over that with your advisor at your 2-year college too. Look at your grades, look at your GPA, and making sure that you're set for a smooth transfer, meaning that most institutions are only going to accept letter grades that are a C or higher. So you want to make sure, like, oh man, you know what? I have a course that I didn't do so great in and I got a D, which I passed, but those credits from that course are no longer going to be eligible to transfer because they're D. So working out with your academic advisor to maybe retake that course, whether in a now semester or the next semester, to get a better grade in there, is going to be vital. So that way you're not coming at that end where you're turning in your official transcripts and they're counting those credits and they say, oh no, we can't take these credits because you earned a D grade here. You'll need to do that course again here at the university, or either you would have to go back to your other institution and retake that and do what's called a reverse transfer. So it's like you're in the university, you're working on other stuff, and then you go back to the other college to come back in and bring in those credits with the redone grade. So there's a lot of research that's involved. It can seem a little bit overwhelming at first, but honestly, it's really going to come down to yourself and where you want to be and what you truly want to do. Now, I did notice that somebody had mentioned in the chat that they were working on their AAS, which, for those of you who may not know, an AAS is an Associate of Arts, an Associate of Applied Science degree. So for this degree, this is what is more commonly known as a workforce degree. They're not necessarily designed for students who are planning to transfer into a university. They're designed for students who are planning to enter the workforce immediately after graduation, or maybe they're already in the workforce and would like to get a promotion or pay raise, something in that manner, you'll notice in those AAS degrees that there are slight differences. Like for instance, in the general education requirements, typically a student will take writing 101 and writing 102. But for AAS, that student may only take writing 101, and maybe instead of writing 102, they take SPE 101, 110, which is like public speaking, slight differences. Or maybe their math requirement is a less math requirement in that AAS degree than it would be in a transfer degree, which would be an Associate of Arts. But I do want to let you know, for those students who are pursuing an AAS, that does not mean that you cannot go to university. You can still go to university, especially because a lot of universities these days are starting to create and develop new programs called the Bachelors of Applied Science. So essentially what they want to do is to encourage students that have these Associate of Applied Sciences to come back to school and not have to worry about restarting, because they're going to look at their Associate of Applied Science and take that in still as a full 60 or 62 credits, whatever it might have been, and take that in going towards their Bachelors of Applied Science within that same program. So those little things, to keep in mind and take a look at, because it can be done. It's just a matter of where you are and where you want to go, and being able to communicate with somebody to reach those levels. I mean, it definitely is something that there is help and there are resources out there, but you have to be the one that goes after them. We may have all heard that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Well, this is in the same sense. This is your journey, your education journey. And so starting that is going to be imperative for you to take that step. The help is there, and we are definitely ready and willing to help you. You just have to reach out for it. And so I hope that with the information that I shared with you tonight, it kind of gives you a little start. I know it's definitely not a lot, and there's still a lot of questions to go out, that you may have, and whether they're specific to yourself or in general, those questions, don't be afraid to ask them, because you can't get answers if you don't ask. And so with that being said, the last little bit of tip that I would like to give to you all is that when you're considering transferring to university, that just to make sure that when you make that decision, you also look at your own self-care and your supports around you, because that's going to be important. Because going through an education journey is not easy work. It's gonna take a lot of work from yourself, and being able to have a support system around you, or find resources to create that support system around you, is gonna be really crucial for you. And so I want you all to remember to take those steps. And when it feels like it's overwhelming, take a step back, take a deep breath, and one step at a time, because one step at a time, you're still going to get there. So remember, you got to take care of yourself as you journey on in this adventure. Thank you all.
Thank you, Grace. I think that last beat is really important to remember, because this is a new environment that you'll all be entering in when you transfer, and there's always that scarcity of not knowing what to expect and facing the unknown. But really locking in with your community and what you know best, and the people that you're surrounded with, can really fuel you with power. I think we do have one question in the chat for you, Grace. It says, is the transfer process more difficult to enter a graduate program than an undergraduate program? Are you able to provide any insight for?
So yeah, that's a really good question. And honestly, it just depends on what graduate program you're going into. because a lot of the undergraduate programs will have a direct graduate program that they link to within the same university. So if you're staying within that same university and going into their graduate program, it should be quite seamless. But if you are going to venture out to a different university, a different institution to get into a graduate program, you're going to see a similar process with a little bit more legwork as well to get there. But there's a lot of universities, which is another thing to consider if you do want to get into a graduate program. There's a lot of universities to consider that have a fast track program. So like for instance, NAU and ASU, their social work programs there have a fast track program where students who are going in for their BSWs can go into their MSWs and only do a year instead of traditionally 2 years because they completed their undergraduate program with them. So, I mean, just little things like that, that's something to consider when you're doing research because each institution could be different.
But thank you all, and thank you, Grace, so much for being able to hop on and join us this evening. It was very useful information, and I'm excited to have it available on our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate the invite and, to all the students here, again, I just want to let you know I'm proud of you. Keep up the great work. My information is all here, so if you'd like to reach out to me, if I can help in any way, I definitely would love to. All right, thank you. I'll be here till the end of this, so if there are questions for me, please drop them in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Grace. Yes, a big thank you to Grace for being able to join us tonight. It's a very busy month for everybody, as I'm sure it's busy for you all. So I appreciate her being here and for you all to join us. I'm just going to go over some general information for this evening, just to kind of close us out. So a part of the American Indian College Fund, we have been doing some major updates to our website. We have a lot of resources that we're building out for our transfer students. A lot of it is still in the works. A lot of it is going to be very exciting. They're currently in the works of building out an online program that you can complete through our website that'll kind of just like help you and provide an additional support into teaching you about the college transfer process. That hasn't been built out yet, but once it will be available on our website. Will drop a bunch of links in our chat, but in the meantime, I'm just going to quickly go over some of those resources that are on our website. Just let me pull up the correct screen. All right, so this is our transfer website. I dropped the link in the chat so you all can have it for later. Right now, it's just built out with some very general resources. Right now, we have past videos for transfer resources that we've filmed in the past. Everything that we've done in terms of events is recorded and edited to our YouTube channel. This is information just about upcoming events. So because this is Transfer Week, we will be hosting another event that I will go over in a bit. So important news will be updated here, just national news that'll be going on, as well as past recordings. So this is a recording from last year from another additional specialist who also provided some insights and tools onto transferring. So that's a really cool video to rewatch in your time. We also like to highlight some of our transfer students who have transferred to tribal college or from tribal college. So these are a lot of our past graduates from this year. So it's kind of cool because you get a little snapshot of where they came from, where they're going, and what they're seeking their degree in. So it's a pretty nice snapshot of all the different scholars that we represent and support and all the places that you can go as well. One day you could probably see our face on there as well. Down here, we have some resources that we shared. These are kind of more geared towards staff and faculty. I mean, you can always look at it for your own knowledge, but we have this transfer timeline, which is a really cool tool to kind of guide you through the transfer process, especially if you're a tribal college student who's transferring. So it kind of gives you some benefits of attending a tribal college before transferring, and it's broken down between years. So it kind of gives you a nice snapshot of what you should be focusing on depending on what year you are in your program. So this is a nice thing to reference throughout the year so you can mark off that you have some of these done or that you need to like highlight the things that need to get done for your transferring. Our hopes are to provide this support to tribal colleges so they can better support their transfer students in this process, because we know that being Native American and transferring to a school at any school can be a truly different experience if you haven't gone through it already. And especially if you're moving away from your community and you're kind of either going to the city or you're going to somewhere rural. There's a lot of factors that you need to consider that that could possibly come up in the journey. So just thinking about all the social, emotional aspects of transferring and making sure that you're really prepared for it. So kind of like how Grace was talking, like if you ever just feel like a lot of it, because this is so much. I mean, education wasn't really designed for us in the first place. And so meeting these things can be overwhelming, and hearing about these things for the first time can just be like a culture shock. So really taking time to step back and, remind yourself why you're doing it, that you're doing okay, that you're doing the best that you can, and that you're always playing on your team. So you are your biggest support, and by supporting yourself, it will open you to a bunch of resources. I think that's the scariest part about transferring, is knowing who to connect to, which office to find resources for, and where to pretty much just overall find that sense of community. Really realigning yourself and asking yourself why you're doing this and the purpose of it. So there's a lot to consider in addition to this this transfer checklist, but this is a nice resourceful list that you can go over in your own time, just to reassess where you're at and kind of mark on your own calendar and such.